Deep in the heart of the jungle, hidden beneath layers of time and earth, lies a secret that could shatter everything we thought we knew about human history. The ancient Maya didn't just leave behind ruins, they left clues. Tiny fragments of a lost world that whisper stories so extraordinary they defy our textbooks. What if the Maya knew more than we ever imagined? What if their artifacts hold truths that rewrite history itself? Today, we're uncovering 25 Mayan relics so baffling, so revolutionary, they could force us to rethink civilization itself. From celestial maps predicting events thousands of years in the future, to carvings that some claim depict advanced technology, or even visitors from the stars, these aren't just artifacts. They're puzzles waiting to be solved, so grab your explorer's hat. We're diving into the shadows of forgotten temples, cracking open vaults of ancient knowledge, and piecing together a mystery that's been buried for centuries. The truth is out there, let's find it together. Now let's turn the page to our first artifact, the Dresden Codex, a book that shouldn't exist, at least not by the standards of what we thought possible for the ancient world. Imagine this, a fragile manuscript painted on bark paper and folded like an accordion, surviving over 800 years of jungle humidity, colonial upheaval, and the passage of time. This isn't just the oldest surviving book from the Americas. It's a cosmic almanac packed with mind-bending astronomical calculations that still leave scientists speechless. The Dresden Codex doesn't just track the moon and planets, it predicts celestial events with pinpoint accuracy. Its Venus tables, for example, calculate the planet's 584-day cycle down to a mere 2 hours of error. That's a level of precision medieval Europe wouldn't achieve for centuries. But here's the real kicker, some of its predictions stretch thousands of years into the future. How did the Maya, without telescopes or modern tools, compile data this exact? Some researchers argue they inherited knowledge from an even older, lost civilization. Others whisper of celestial visitors. Whatever the truth, the Codex forces us to question the timeline of human scientific achievement. Its journey to a German library in the 1700s is a tale of mystery itself. Was it looted, traded, or smuggled out of the Yucatan? No one knows for certain. And then there's the debate over its glyphs. Certain passages seem to describe global catastrophes, floods, droughts, even what some interpret as a great fire from the sky. Mainstream scholars dismiss these as mythological allegories, but fringe theorists insist they're records of real events. One chilling section appears to correlate with a documented meteor strike in the year 794. Coincidence or evidence the Maya tracked disasters we've only just rediscovered? The Dresden Codex is more than a relic, it's a challenge to our assumptions about the past, and a silent dare to decode the rest of its secrets. And remember, this is just the first artifact on our list. If this doesn't rewrite history, wait until you see what's next. Moving from the cosmic mysteries of the Dresden Codex, we step into the everyday world of the Maya with the Madrid Codex. While it might not have the same fame as its Dresden counterpart, this artifact is a treasure trove of intimate details about Mayan life, offering a window into their rituals, agriculture, and even their sense of time. Picture this, a sprawling, fragmented text pieced together from two separate parts discovered centuries apart. Yet together they paint a vivid portrait of a civilization deeply connected to the rhythms of nature. The Madrid Codex is often called the Handbook of the Priest because of its detailed depictions of ceremonies, sacrifices, and divination rituals. But it's not just about the sacred, it's also a practical guide. The glyphs reveal meticulous records of agricultural cycles, showing when to plant maize, when to harvest, and even how to predict rainfall. These weren't guesses, they were based on generations of observation, encoded into a system so precise it rivals modern farming almanacs. One section details a 260-day ritual calendar intertwined with crop cycles, suggesting the Maya saw farming as both a science and a spiritual act. What's truly striking is how the codex blends the mundane with the mystical. Scenes of hunters chasing deer sit alongside priests summoning rain gods, as if the Maya saw no separation between daily labor and divine intervention. The glyphs hint at something even more intriguing, a mastery of timekeeping that goes beyond simple calendars. Certain pages track the movements of celestial bodies in relation to planting seasons, implying the Maya didn't just watch the stars, they used them as a manual for survival. Then there's the mystery of its survival. Unlike the Dresden Codex, which wound up in Europe, the Madrid Codex was nearly lost to history. Parts of it resurfaced in the 19th century, hidden in private collections with its pages scattered. Scholars later realized two separate fragments, once thought to be different texts, were actually halves of the same codex. Reunited, they revealed secrets the Maya never intended outsiders to see. The Madrid Codex doesn't just show us how the Maya lived, it challenges our assumptions about ancient knowledge. How did a society without telescopes or written records from other cultures develop such an intricate understanding of time and nature? Was this wisdom passed down or discovered independently? One thing's certain, if the Dresden Codex is the Maya's gift to astronomy, the Madrid Codex is their love letter to the Earth itself. And this is only artifact number 2. Wait until you see where the trail leads next. Now, as we leave behind the earthy wisdom of the Madrid Codex, our journey takes a turn toward the mystical with the Paris Codex. Named not for its origin but for the city where it was rediscovered, this fragmented manuscript is like a puzzle missing half its pieces, yet what remains is nothing short of astonishing. Imagine a text so delicate that its survival defies logic, pages frayed by time yet still whispering secrets of prophecies, star charts, and rituals that blur the line between science and sorcery. The Paris Codex is often overshadowed by its more complete siblings, but its value lies in its ambiguity. Unlike the practical Madrid or the astronomical Dresden, this codex leans heavily into the esoteric. One section details a series of prophecies tied to the Catan cycles, 20-year periods that the Maya believed held cosmic significance. These aren't vague predictions, they're precise, almost algorithmic, warning of droughts, wars, and even societal collapse. Some scholars argue these weren't mere superstitions but calculations based on historical patterns, a kind of ancient data analysis. Others see them as spiritual roadmaps meant to guide rulers through turbulent times. Then there's the celestial material. Faded but legible star maps in the Paris Codex align Venus and Mars with specific dates, suggesting the Maya tracked these planets not just for agriculture, as seen in the Madrid Codex, but for divine intervention. One chart appears to predict a Venus eclipse, an event tied to the god Kukulkan's return. Was this astronomy or theology? The Codex refuses to draw a line, leaving us to wonder if the Maya even saw a difference. But the real enigma is how it survived at all. Unlike the Dresden and Madrid codices, which were preserved in relatively stable conditions, the Paris Codex spent centuries folded, refolded, and nearly discarded as a curiosity. It resurfaced in the 1800s in a Paris library basement, mislabeled as an Aztec relic. By then, insects and humidity had gnawed at its edges, and entire sections had crumbled to dust. That we can read any of it today is a testament to both luck and modern restoration techniques. Theories about its original purpose only deepen the mystery. Some argue it was a priest's private manual, filled with rituals too potent for public eyes. Others believe it was a diplomatic gift, meant to showcase Mayan intellectual might to neighboring cities. The most tantalizing theory that it's a fragment of a much larger work, one that might have held answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask. What's undeniable is this: the Paris Codex forces us to confront how much we've lost. Its fragmented state mirrors our patchwork understanding of the Maya glimpses of genius amid gaps of silence. Yet, even in its incompleteness, it challenges modern assumptions. How did a civilization without telescopes or paper as we know it produce such intricate celestial records? And why does their vision of time feel less like a calendar and more like a living, breathing entity? As we close this chapter, remember, the Paris Codex isn't just a relic. It's a haunting reminder that history isn't always written in stone. Sometimes it's scribbled on bark, nearly erased and waiting centuries for someone to listen. And with that, we're ready to step into an even darker corner of Mayan mystery, where authenticity itself is up for debate. Now, let's step into one of the most heated debates in Mayan archaeology, a story where even the experts can't agree. Meet the Grolier Codex, the black sheep of the surviving Mayan manuscripts. Unlike the Dresden, Madrid, and Paris Codices, whose histories are shrouded in mystery but whose authenticity is uncontested, the Grolier has spent decades under a cloud of suspicion. Its very existence feels like a dare, prove me real if you can. Discovered in the 1960s under circumstances straight out of a pulp novel, allegedly looted from a cave in Mexico and sold to a wealthy collector. The Grolier Codex arrived with no archaeological paper trail. Just 10 fragile pages, their bark paper surface painted with deities, dates, and gruesome bloodletting rituals. At first glance, it seemed like a miraculous find, the fourth surviving Mayan codex predating even the Spanish conquest. But almost immediately, whispers of forgery began. The controversy hinges on two things: style and substance. Skeptics point to the Grolier's artwork, which lacks the refined detail of the other codices. The figures are cruder, the colors brighter, almost garish compared to the earthy tones of the Dresden or Madrid. Then there's the content. While the other codices mix astronomy, calendars, and rituals, the Grolier fixates on one theme: blood. Page after page shows gods and rulers piercing their tongues, genitals, and earlobes to spill blood as offerings. It's visceral even by Mayan standards. Critics argue this narrow focus feels manufactured, designed to shock and attract collectors rather than reflect genuine Mayan thought. But the defenders of the Grolier have ammunition too. In 2016, a team of scientists published a bombshell study. Using advanced spectroscopy, they analyzed the codex's pigments and found something startling. The blue paint contained Maya blue, a unique pigment whose recipe was lost after the Spanish conquest. Even more compelling, the bark paper was dated to the 13th century, centuries before any modern forger could have replicated it. For many, this was proof enough. The Grolier was real, just unconventional. Then there's the bloodletting itself. Far from being out of place, these rituals align with known Mayan practices. The Dresden Codex mentions blood offerings, and carvings at Palenque and Yaxchilon depict nobles drawing blood to commune with the gods. The Grolier's graphic focus might simply reflect its purpose, perhaps a manual for priests or a noble's personal devotional text, yet doubts linger. Why was it found alone, without the ceremonial context typical of such sacred objects? Why does its survival seem so at odds with the fate of other codices, most of which were burned by Spanish priests? The Grolier's defenders have answers. Maybe it was hidden in a hurry or spared as a curiosity. But the questions stick like shadows. What makes the Grolier controversy so gripping isn't just the academic sparring. It's what it reveals about how we define authenticity. Is a real artifact only one that fits our expectations, or can something be genuine and messy and unsettling? The Grolier, whether ancient or forged, forces us to confront our own biases. After all, history isn't a tidy museum display. It's full of outliers that refuse to be categorized. With that in mind, we're ready to turn to an artifact with no such doubts, one whose symbolism has sparked wild theories for generations. Now, let's shift our gaze to an artifact so visually striking that it has fueled imaginations for decades: the Lid of Palenque. Nestled deep within the Temple of the Inscriptions in Mexico, this intricately carved sarcophagus lid once sealed the tomb of Pakal the Great, one of the Maya's most legendary rulers. But unlike the contested Grolier Codex, there's no doubt about the lid's authenticity. The real mystery lies in what it depicts, a scene so enigmatic that some claim it proves the Maya had contact with advanced civilizations or even beings from beyond our world. At first glance, the lid's central figure appears to be Pakal himself, reclined in a position that echoes the Maya's vision of the cosmic cycle between life and death. But look closer and the details spiral into the extraordinary. Pakal is framed by a fantastical machine-like structure, his body angled as if in motion, surrounded by swirling celestial symbols and what some interpret as flames or exhaust. To modern eyes, it's hard not to see a resemblance to a spacecraft, leading to the famous Mayan Astronaut theory. Could this really be an ancient depiction of interstellar travel? Scholars, of course, have a different take. The mainstream interpretation ties the lid's imagery to Mayan cosmology. Pakal isn't piloting a rocket. He's descending into the underworld, Xibalba, along the world tree, a sacred axis connecting the heavens, earth, and the realm of the dead. The flames might represent serpents or roots, symbols of rebirth. The machine could be the celestial canoe carrying the sun god through the underworld at night, a metaphor for resurrection. Even the positioning of Pakal's body mirrors depictions of the maize god's rebirth, a core Mayan myth. Yet the controversy persists, and not without reason. The lid's precision is astonishing. The carvings align with astronomical events, like the position of the Milky Way during Pakal's reign. Some argue the proportions of the craft match technical diagrams eerily well. And then there's the bigger question: why does this imagery feel so different from other Mayan art? The dynamism, the almost mechanical intricacy, it stands apart. Perhaps the most compelling middle ground is this: the lid captures the Maya's genius for blending science and spirituality. Their astronomical knowledge was so advanced that their metaphors for cosmic cycles might seem like technology to us. Whether it's a vision of the afterlife or something more, the lid undeniably reflects a sophistication that still leaves us in awe. What makes the Lid of Palenque unforgettable isn't just the wild theories it inspires. It's the way it challenges us to expand our understanding of how ancient civilizations saw their place in the universe. And as we'll see next, Pakal's tomb is just the beginning of the Temple of the Inscriptions secrets. Moving from the captivating mystery of the lid, let's step inside the very heart of Palenque's secrets, the Temple of the Inscriptions itself. This towering pyramid isn't just Pakal the Great's final resting place. It's a carefully engineered masterpiece that mirrors the Maya's profound connection to the cosmos. Every stone, every stair, every hidden chamber whispers a story of celestial precision and spiritual depth. The temple's name comes from the hieroglyphic panels lining its inner walls, over 600 glyphs that chart Pakal's dynastic legacy and his journey into the afterlife. But the real marvel lies in its design. The pyramid's 9 levels aren't just architectural flourishes, they're a direct nod to the 9 tiers of Xibalba, the Mayan underworld. Climbing the temple steps symbolically retraces Pakal's descent, while the hidden tomb beneath its base becomes a portal to rebirth. What's even more astonishing is how the temple aligns with the heavens. During the winter solstice, the setting sun casts shadows along the staircase in a way that mirrors the world tree, the same cosmic axis depicted on Pakal's lid. This isn't coincidence, it's celestial choreography. The Maya didn't just build monuments, they encoded their understanding of time and space into stone. Inside, the tomb's discovery in the 1950s rewrote history. Archaeologists had assumed Mesoamerican pyramids were purely ceremonial until they found Pakal's burial chamber, complete with offerings of jade, pearls, and a haunting stucco portrait of the king's face. The vaulted ceiling above the sarcophagus, a symbolic representation of the night sky, echoing the lid's celestial themes. Even the temple's orientation points to key stars, tying Pakal's reign to the eternal cycles of the universe. But here's the twist: the temple isn't just about death. Its alignment with Venus, a planet tied to warfare and renewal in Mayan culture, suggests Pakal's resurrection as a divine force. The same precision that some see as otherworldly is actually a testament to the Mayas' genius, their ability to weave astronomy, mythology, and power into a single structure. As we peel back these layers, one truth becomes clear: the Temple of the Inscriptions isn't just a tomb. It's a clock, a calendar, and a cosmic map, all converging to honor a king who dreamed of eternity. And waiting just beyond Palenque, the next artifact will explore the Balam Acropolis holds its own stunning revelations about how the Maya envisioned creation itself. Now let's journey from the celestial precision of Palenque to the lush jungles of Yucatan, where the Balam Acropolis rises like a sculpted dream. This pyramid isn't just another room, and it's a canvas of stucco artistry so vivid it feels alive. Imagine walking up to a structure adorned with winged deities, their feathers and serpent tails twisting in frozen motion, as if whispering secrets from the past. The star of Balam is its breathtaking stucco facade, a masterpiece preserved against time. Unlike the stone carvings of other Mayan sites, this pyramid's surface is covered in intricate plasterwork, showcasing figures with outstretched wings and gaping serpent jaws. These aren't just decorations, they're visual echoes of Mayan creation myths. The winged beings likely represent the Powhatans, sky-bearers who held up the heavens in Mayan cosmology. Their presence here suggests the Acropolis was more than a royal palace, it was a bridge between earth and the divine. Then there's the serpent motif coiled around doorways and framing sacred spaces. In Mayan belief, serpents weren't just symbols of danger but of transformation, often linked to the god Kukulkan, the feathered serpent who brought knowledge and power. At Balam, these serpents might symbolize the ruler's ability to channel divine authority, reinforcing his role as both political leader and spiritual intermediary. But who built this marvel? The answer lies in the Acropolis's hidden chambers. Excavations reveal tombs of elite figures buried with jade masks and inscribed bones, hinting at a dynasty that wielded both military and mystical influence. One tomb, possibly belonging to a king named Ukit-Kan-Lek-Tok, contained offerings so lavish, including a ceremonial scepter and spondylus shells, that they scream elite privilege. These finds suggest Balam wasn't just a religious hub but a seat of power, where rulers used art and architecture to cement their godlike status. The Acropolis's layout deepens the mystery. Its central pyramid, the Ovato, is flanked by twin temples, a design echoing the Mayan concept of duality, life and death, sky and underworld. Even the name Balam, Black Jaguar, ties to the night sun's journey through Xibalba, further binding the site to myths of rebirth. What makes Balam truly groundbreaking is its defiance of expectations. While most Mayan sites emphasize stone, here stucco reigns, suggesting a unique artistic tradition. Some scholars argue the winged figures could depict ancestral spirits, watching over the living, a theory supported by nearby murals showing rulers communing with these beings. Others see the serpents as markers of sacred boundaries, literally embodying the divide between the mortal and supernatural worlds. As we stand before this stucco wonder, one thing is clear: Balam was a stage where myth and power performed in tandem. Its artistry wasn't just for show. It was a language of control, spirituality, and cosmic order. And waiting just beyond, the next artifact, the Kapon hieroglyphic stairway, holds another piece of the puzzle: how the Maya carved their history into stone, one glyph at a time. Leaving the stucco wonders of Balam behind, we now venture into the heart of Kapon, where history is carved into stone on a grand scale. The Kapon hieroglyphic stairway isn't just a set of steps, it's the longest known Mayan inscription, a towering chronicle of dynastic power that stretches over 60 steps. Each block is a page in a stone book, telling the story of kings, conquests, and cosmic events. But this masterpiece comes with a puzzle. time and weather have worn away parts of the text, leaving scholars to piece together fragments of a lost narrative. At first glance, the stairway is a breathtaking feat of artistry. Over 2,000 glyphs wind their way up the pyramid, intertwining with portraits of rulers and gods. The centerpiece is a series of statues depicting the kings of Kapon, each framed by intricate carvings that detail their reigns. One figure stands out, Waxakladjun Yuba Kayawil, the 13th ruler, who likely commissioned this monumental project. His glyphs boast of military victories and sacred rituals, painting him as both warrior and priest. But the stairway's true genius lies in its depth. It doesn't just glorify one king. It connects his rule to a lineage stretching back to Kainish Yaks Kayak Mo, Kapon's founder, tying earthly power to divine origins. Yet the stairway's story is also one of loss. When explorers first uncovered it in the 19th century, many glyphs were already eroded or displaced. Early attempts at reconstruction, though well-meaning, sometimes placed blocks out of order, scrambling the narrative like a jumbled manuscript. Modern epigraphers have spent decades trying to correct these missteps, using laser scans and comparative texts to guess at missing passages. Some gaps may never be filled, like a royal biography with entire chapters torn out. One of the biggest mysteries revolves around the stairway's purpose. Was it a political monument meant to legitimize the ruler's authority, or a sacred text encoding rituals for future generations? The answer might lie in a single glyph cluster near the top, which references a Kayatan ending, a pivotal 20-year cycle in the Mayan calendar. This suggests the stairway could have been a ceremonial stage for timekeeping, where rulers reenacted cosmic events to maintain order. The stairway also hints at Kapon's downfall. Later steps mention rebellions and droughts, cracks in the dynasty's facade. Some scholars believe the monument was left unfinished, interrupted by the city's decline. It's a poignant reminder that even stone can't cheat time, but what remains still rewrites history. For example, the stairway's dynastic list clashes with earlier theories about Mayan rulership, showing that power wasn't always passed father to son. Adoptions, coups, and queen regents played roles too, revealing a political system far more complex than once assumed. As we trace our fingers over these weathered glyphs, we're not just reading history, we're witnessing the Mayas' obsession with preserving it. The stairway was their answer to perishable bark paper books, a way to etch their legacy into eternity. And waiting ahead, another artifact, the ball court marker of Kapon, will show us how the Maya turned sport into sacred drama. Stepping off the stairway's historical tapestry, we find ourselves at the edge of Kapon's great ball court, where sport and spirituality collide. The ball court marker here is no ordinary stone. It's a portal into the Maya's sacred universe, where a game could decide fates and echo ancient myths. Carved with scenes of athletic triumph and cosmic struggle, this artifact reveals how the Maya transformed a physical contest into a ritual echoing their most profound beliefs. At the center of the marker's design, two players frozen in motion face off, their padded hips poised to strike a heavy rubber ball. But look closer and the carvings whisper of deeper layers. The players aren't just athletes, they're stand-ins for the hero twins, the legendary figures from the Popol Vuh who outwitted the lords of the underworld in a deadly ball game. The marker's glyphs frame the match as a reenactment of this myth, linking every bounce of the ball to the twins' journey through Xibalba, the realm of the dead. The stakes were cosmic. For the Maya, this wasn't mere entertainment, it was a rebalancing act. Victories in the ball game mirrored the twins' defeat of chaos, ensuring the sun would rise and crops would grow. Some scholars believe the captain of the winning team, or even the losing one, might have been sacrificed, his blood nourishing the earth like the twins' final showdown in the myth. The marker's imagery supports this. One figure holds a blade while another kneels in submission, their fate hanging between sport and sacrament. What makes the Kapon marker unique is its precision. Unlike earlier abstract ball court markers, this one names specific players and dates, likely recording an actual match played in the 8th century. One glyph cluster refers to Kayok Yuti-chan, a Kapon ruler who may have sponsored the game as political theater. By tying his reign to the hero twins' victory, he'd have cast himself as a divine intermediary, proving his city's favor with the gods. Yet the marker also hints at shadows beneath the spectacle. The ball game wasn't just about glory. It could resolve conflicts with territories or tributes changing hands based on the outcome. The underworld motifs suggest the Maya saw life itself as a precarious game where rulers like the hero twins had to outplay darkness to survive. As the jungle reclaims Kapon's ball court, this stone endures, a testament to how the Maya wove myth into every facet of life. Next, we'll uncover how jade masks like those of Calakmul and Palenque turned kings into immortal beings, bridging the human and divine. Turning from the ball court's dramatic rituals, we enter the silent, sacred space of the tomb where jade transforms kings into gods. Among the most striking Mayan artifacts are the burial masks of Calakmul and Palenque, masterpieces that didn't just adorn the dead but redefined them. These weren't mere funeral ornaments, they were passports to eternity, crafted to ensure rulers transcended mortality. The jade mask of Calakmul, discovered in the depths of Structure 2, is a mosaic of over 200 pieces of jade, each carefully cut and polished to fit the face of an unknown king. What's extraordinary isn't just its precision, it's the material itself. To the Maya, jade was more precious than gold, called yakshaj or first truth, symbolizing water, life, and the soul's purity. The mask's vivid green tiles mimic the lushness of the sacred ceiba tree, believed to connect the underworld, earth, and heavens. But here's the twist: the king's mouth, uniquely, is left open. Some researchers argue this was intentional, a way for his spirit to speak or consume offerings in the afterlife. Now, shift to Palenque's Kayinish Janub Pakal, one of the most famous Maya rulers, whose jade mask tells a different story. Unlike Calakmul's mosaic, Pakal's mask was carved from a single, enormous jade slab, its smooth surface interrupted only by shell-inlaid eyes and teeth. The difference in style isn't just artistic, it's theological. Pakal's mask depicts him eternally youthful, reflecting his name's meaning, the sun's shield. This wasn't a death mask, it was a rebirth mask. When archaeologists found it in the Temple of the Inscriptions, the mask had shifted downward, as if Pakal's spirit had departed through it, ascending to join the sun god. Both masks share a haunting detail: red cinnabar powder rubbed into the jade's crevices. This wasn't decoration, it was ritual. Cinnabar symbolized blood, the essence of life, and its presence suggests these masks were activated in funeral ceremonies, turning stone into living divine flesh. The Maya believed jade's coolness preserved the soul, while cinnabar's vibrancy restored vitality, creating a paradox: death as a gateway to endless renewal. What do these masks reveal about the Maya's vision of the afterlife? Unlike Western traditions that often separate body and soul, the Maya saw them as intertwined. A ruler's remains, clad in jade, became a vessel for their way of their spiritual double. The mask's closed eyes might seem peaceful, but glyphs suggest they were meant to see into other realms, maintaining the king's watch over his people. Even in death, these rulers weren't gone. They were translated, their power lingering like the morning mist over Palenque's temples. As we leave these luminous faces behind, our next stop plunges us into the heart of Mayan cosmology, a stone monument that dares to rewrite time itself. But the mysteries of the Maya don't end with the glittering tombs of kings. Our journey now takes us to the open plazas of Quirigá, where a towering stone monument stands as a defiant challenge to history itself. Meet Stela C, a 9-ton slab of sandstone carved with glyphs so precise, they've sparked debates that ripple far beyond the jungle. What makes this artifact extraordinary isn't just its size or craftsmanship, it's the audacious claim etched into its surface: a creation date of August 11, 3114 before Common Era. This isn't just a random number. Stellar C anchors the Maya's long count calendar, a system so complex it tracked time in cycles spanning thousands of years. Unlike modern calendars that reset annually, the long count marched forward like an odometer, tallying days since the mythical birth of the current world. The date on Stellar C marks what the Maya called 4-8 Kumku, Day Zero, the moment their god set the cosmos in motion. But here's where it gets controversial. Mainstream archaeology places the rise of Maya civilization around 1200 before Common Era. So why would Stellar C point to a date over 2 millennia earlier? Some scholars argue this reflects a spiritual, not historical, beginning, a symbolic anchor for rituals. Others see it as evidence of inherited knowledge from older cultures like the Olmec, whose own calendars might have inspired the Maya. But the most tantalizing theory, that the long count preserves fragments of a far older chronology, one aligning with other Mesoamerican traditions. The Aztecs, for instance, spoke of 5 successive suns or world ages, each destroyed and reborn. Stellar C's date eerily mirrors their own Day Zero, suggesting a shared cosmological blueprint across cultures separated by centuries. The glyphs on Stellar C offer another clue. They describe a cosmic event, the raising of the sky by 3 stones. Modern astronomers note this might reference the alignment of Orion's belt with the Milky Way, a phenomenon visible around 3114 before Common Era. Could the Maya have preserved an oral tradition stretching back that far? Or did they, as some researchers speculate, inherit astronomical data from a lost civilization? What's undeniable is how Stellar C reshapes our view of the Maya as mere Stone Age people. Carving such precise calendrical math required observing the stars for generations, long enough to detect subtle shifts in celestial cycles. It implies a scholarly tradition far older than the pyramids themselves. And when the long count's end date of 2012 sparked global doomsday panic, it revealed how deeply modern culture still misunderstands Maya timekeeping. For them, 2012 wasn't an apocalypse, it was a reset, a chance for renewal. As we step back from Stellar C's shadow, one truth lingers: the Maya didn't just track time. They wove it into the fabric of existence, blending myth with precision in a way that still defies simple explanation. Next, we'll uncover another artifact, one that surfaced in the unlikeliest of places, rewriting the story of Mayan writing itself. Now, let's turn our attention from towering monuments to a small but staggering artifact, one that surfaced in the most unexpected of places. Picture this: in 1944, a construction crew digging a sewer line in Guatemala City unearthed a glimmering piece of jade no larger than your palm. This is the Leyden plate, and despite its humble discovery, it carries a weighty secret. What makes this jade plaque extraordinary isn't just its craftsmanship, it's the message etched into its surface. The Leyden plate bears some of the earliest known Mayan glyphs, dating back to around 320 before Common Era. That's centuries before the rise of classic Maya city-states like Tikal or Palenque. These glyphs aren't just primitive scribbles, they're a fully developed writing system, complete with calendrical notations and royal titles. The inscription celebrates a ruler named Yax Abe Zuk, proclaiming his accession to power. But here's the twist: this predates what scholars once considered the dawn of Mayan writing by hundreds of years. The implications are profound. For decades, experts believed complex writing emerged only during the Classic period, around 250 Common Era. The Leyden plate shatters that timeline, proving the Maya were recording history far earlier than we thought. Even more intriguing, the glyphs show striking similarities to later scripts, suggesting an unbroken tradition rather than a sudden invention. Some researchers now argue that Maya writing may have roots in even older Olmec systems, hinting at a cultural exchange stretching back over millennia. But the laden plate's discovery raises another mystery. Why was it buried in a sewer? Unlike ceremonial objects found in tombs or temples, this plaque was discarded like ordinary trash. One theory suggests it was a deliberate act, perhaps a ritual killing of the object to release its spiritual power. Another posits it was lost during a time of upheaval, a silent witness to political turmoil we've yet to uncover. What's undeniable is how this small jade slab rewrites the narrative of Mayan literacy. It forces us to reconsider who the early Maya were, not just villagers taking their first steps toward civilization, but a people already weaving words into the fabric of their world. As we move forward, another artifact awaits, one that paints a vivid, unflinching portrait of the Maya in ways no glyph alone ever could. As we step away from the quiet mysteries of buried jade, let's journey into the heart of a rainforest where walls speak in bursts of color and violence. Deep in the ruins of Bonampak, hidden for centuries beneath dense jungle, lies a series of murals so vivid they seem to pulse with life and death. Discovered in 1946, these paintings strip away any romanticized notion of the Maya as a purely peaceful, stargazing civilization. Instead, they show us a world of calculated brutality, where war was not just a necessity but a spectacle. The Bonampak murals span 3 rooms, each a masterclass in storytelling. The first chamber opens with a scene of royal pomp, elaborate headdresses, swirling incense, and nobles clad in jade, but the mood shifts abruptly in the second room. Here, warriors in animalistic garb clash in a frenzy of spears and blood. Captives beg for mercy at the feet of a victorious king, their fingers bleeding from ritual mutilation. The final room delivers the grim aftermath, prisoners tortured, their nails torn out, while musicians blow conch shells as if celebrating the carnage. This isn't just art, it's propaganda, a stark declaration of power meant to awe and intimidate. What makes these murals revolutionary isn't just their gore but their timing. For decades, scholars painted the classic Maya as astronomers and poets, their wars minor skirmishes over resources. Bonampak appends that these murals date to around 790 Common Era, a period once thought to be a cultural zenith. Instead, they reveal a society steeped in militarism where kings justified their rule through conquest. The details are unnervingly precise, the way a warrior grabs a captive's hair, the pooling blood rendered in crimson ochre, even the resigned terror in a prisoner's eyes. This is war as the Maya saw it, unflinching and raw. Yet there's more here than violence. The murals also hint at the psychological weight of warfare. Notice how the king's face remains eerily calm amid the chaos, a contrast to the anguish of his victims. Some researchers argue this duality reflects a Maya belief in war as both duty and divine theater, where rulers played roles scripted by the gods. Others point to the presence of women and children in the scenes, suggesting wars weren't just male affairs but communal trials. Bonampak's greatest lesson might be its honesty. Unlike stone stelae that sanitize history for royal legacies, these murals force us to confront the Maya as they were brilliant, brutal, and unapologetically human. As we move forward, another artifact awaits, one that challenges not just our view of Maya warfare, but the very role of women in their society. Now let's leave the battlefields of Bonampak behind and step into the world of diplomacy, where a single stone panel shatters long-held assumptions about Mayan power structures. Nestled in the ruins of Cancrain, a city known more for its trade than its conquests, lies an artifact that rewrites the script on gender roles in ancient Maya society, the Cancrain panel. Unlike the violent spectacles of Bonampak, this intricately carved slab tells a quieter but no less revolutionary story, one where a queen, not a king, takes center stage in forging political alliances. Discovered in 2005, the panel depicts Lady Kayable, a 7th century queen of Cancrain, standing face to face with the ruler of a neighboring city. Their hands are clasped in a gesture of mutual respect, while glyphs detail a marriage alliance that secured peace between their realms. This isn't just a royal portrait, it's a smoking gun. For years, scholars assumed Maya women were relegated to symbolic roles, their influence limited to childbirth and ritual. But here, Lady Kayable isn't a passive consort, she's a negotiator, her authority etched in stone alongside her male counterpart. The panel's significance only grows when you examine the details. Notice the absence of weapons or trophies of war. Instead, both figures hold bundles of cloth, likely representing trade goods, a nod to Cancrane's wealth as a hub for jade and obsidian. This wasn't just a political marriage, it was an economic strategy brokered by a woman. Even more striking is Lady Kayable's attire. She wears a warrior's helmet adorned with the face of the war goddess, a visual declaration that femininity and power weren't mutually exclusive in Maya culture. What does this mean for our understanding of the Maya? First, it forces us to rethink the warrior-king narrative. While rulers like Bonampac's monarchs glorified violence, Cancrane's elite may have prioritized commerce and negotiation, with women as key players. Second, the panel hints at a more complex social hierarchy. Nearby cities like Tikal left records dominated by male rulers, but Cancrane's art suggests that in some regions, queens could wield equal, if not greater, influence. Archaeologists have since found other artifacts, jade plaques, ceramic vessels that name Lady Kayable as a supreme warrior, further blurring the lines between gendered roles. Yet the panel's most enduring mystery is its abrupt end. Cancrane was sacked and abandoned around 800 Common Era, its palaces burned. Some theorize that its reliance on diplomacy rather than military might became a fatal weakness in an era of rising warlords. Others argue that Lady Kayable's legacy lived on, influencing later queens like Lady Six Sky of Naranjo, who famously led armies. Either way, the Cancrane panel stands as a testament to the diversity of Mayan governance, and a reminder that history is rarely as simple as we imagine. As we move forward, another artifact awaits, one that shifts our gaze from the negotiating table back to the battlefield, but with a twist. High in the temples of Tikal, a carved lintel tells a story not just of conquest, but of the psychology behind it. From the quiet diplomacy of Cancrane, we now turn to a monument of raw power. Towering above the jungle canopy, Tikal's Temple 4 stands as a silent sentinel of the classic Maya's golden age, and its lintel a masterpiece of political propaganda. Carved into this massive wooden beam is King Yikin-chan Kayawil, Tikal's 27th ruler, perched atop a palanquin like a living god. But this isn't just a celebration of victory, it's a calculated message to rivals and subjects alike. Discovered in the late 19th century, the lintel captures Yikin-chan Kayawil at the height of his reign, around 740 Common Era. His posture is deliberate. One hand grips a scepter adorned with the head of Kayawil, the lightning deity, while the other clutches a captive's hair. The glyphs beneath him boast of a decisive victory over Calakmul, Tikal's archenemy. Yet what makes this artifact extraordinary isn't the brutality, it's the symbolism. The king isn't just a warrior, he's framed by celestial motifs, his palanquin floating above a pyramid that dissolves into serpent-headed vines. This visual language screams divinity, suggesting his conquests weren't mere political acts but cosmic necessities. Zoom in, and the geopolitical chess game becomes clear. Tikal and Calakmul spent centuries locked in a cold war with vassal cities as pawns. Yikin-chan Kayawil's triumph here didn't just expand Tikal's territory, it shattered Calakmul's network of alliances, shifting the balance of power across the lowlands. The lintel's placement is equally strategic. Temple 4 was the tallest structure in the Maya world at the time, visible for miles. Every subject or envoy approaching the city would have craned their neck to see this declaration of supremacy, a Stone Age billboard proclaiming, "Resistance is futile." But there's a darker subtext. Unlike Cancrane's panel, which highlights negotiation, this artifact revels in asymmetry. The captive at Yikin Chan Kayawiel's feet isn't just defeated, he's nameless, reduced to a prop. Scholars note this erasure was intentional. While Lady Kayable's panel celebrated mutual recognition, Tikal's lintel denies the enemy even basic humanity, a tactic familiar in modern propaganda. Yet for all its bravado, the lintel also whispers of insecurity. The king's exaggerated regalia, the oversized headdress, the supernatural framing hints at a ruler desperate to legitimize his grip on power. The artifact's legacy is equally fascinating. Within decades of its carving, Tikal's dominance began to crack. Drought-strained resources and satellite cities grew restless. Some argue the lintel's aggressive symbolism backfired, fueling resentment. Others see it as the last gasp of a system doomed by its own expansionism. Either way, it offers a stark contrast to Cancrane's collaborative model, proof that the Maya world wasn't monolithic but a patchwork of competing philosophies. As we move deeper into the labyrinth of Maya history, another puzzle awaits, one that blurs the lines between ally and adversary. Far from Tikal's heartland, artifacts surfaced bearing a curious fusion of Mayan and Aztec artistry, sparking debates about connections no one saw coming. Now, shifting our gaze from Tikal's stone propaganda, we stumble upon an even more intriguing mystery: artifacts that defy the boundaries of time and culture. Deep in the heart of Mayan territory, archaeologists have uncovered figurines that bear an uncanny resemblance to the art of the Aztecs. These hybrid artifacts, blending Mayan craftsmanship with unmistakable Aztec motifs, raise a tantalizing question: how did these two great civilizations cross paths? The figurines, often made of clay or jade, depict deities, warriors, and nobles with stylistic elements that scream Aztec influence. Take, for instance, a jade pendant discovered in the ruins of Mayapan. It shows a feathered serpent, a hallmark of the Aztec god Quetzalcoatl, yet its intricate carvings align with Mayan artistic traditions. Another example is a ceramic figurine from Cholum, portraying a warrior adorned with the iconic Aztec eagle helmet but surrounded by Mayan glyphs. These artifacts aren't accidents. They suggest a deliberate fusion of ideas, but the bigger question is why. One theory points to trade. By the late post-classic period, around the 1300s to 1500s Common Era, the Maya and Aztecs had established sprawling trade networks. Goods like cacao, obsidian, and feathers moved across Mesoamerica, and with them, cultural influences. The Aztecs prized Mayan jade, while the Maya sought Aztec gold and turquoise. Could these figurines be symbols of a flourishing exchange, where artisans borrowed styles to cater to elite tastes? Yet trade alone doesn't explain the militaristic themes in some of these artifacts. A set of figurines from Coba depicts warriors wielding Aztec-style macuahuitl wooden swords embedded with razor-sharp obsidian blades. This weapon was synonymous with Aztec warfare, not Mayan. Some scholars argue these finds hint at alliances or conflicts. The Aztec Empire, at its peak, extended its reach through conquest and diplomacy. Did Mayan city-states hire Aztec mercenaries, or did Aztec incursions leave a cultural imprint? The most provocative theory revolves around shared ideologies. Both civilizations worshipped feathered serpents. The Maya called theirs Cuculcan, the Aztecs Quetzalcoatl. Ritual objects blending these deities suggest a deeper spiritual connection. Perhaps pilgrims, priests, or even refugees carried these beliefs across borders, weaving a shared mythological tapestry long before European contact. But here's the twist: these figurines aren't just historical curiosities. They challenge the textbook narrative that paints the Maya and Aztecs as isolated entities. Instead, they reveal a dynamic, interconnected Mesoamerica where ideas flowed as freely as trade goods. Every hybrid artifact is a silent witness to dialogues we're only beginning to decode. And as we piece together these cultural puzzles, another discovery waits, one that takes us back to the very dawn of Mayan civilization. Hidden beneath layers of jungle and time, the murals of Bonampak reveal a side of the Maya few dared to imagine. But beyond the interplay of Mayan and Aztec cultures, the roots of Mayan artistry stretch even deeper into time. Venturing further back into the pre-classic era, we encounter two breathtaking masterpieces that rewrite our understanding of when Mayan storytelling reached its peak. The El Mirador frieze and the San Bartolo murals, separated by centuries, offer a window into how the Maya refined their myths and how early their artistic genius truly blossomed. Hidden within the ruins of El Mirador, a sprawling city that thrived over 2,000 years ago, archaeologists uncovered a stunning stucco frieze. This intricate artwork, dating to around 300 before Common Era, depicts the Mayan creation myth with astonishing sophistication. Towering figures of gods and monsters emerge from the plaster, their details so precise that even the feathers on their headdresses appear to ripple. At the center stands the hero twins, pivotal figures in Mayan mythology, locked in battle with the lords of the underworld. What makes this frieze extraordinary isn't just its age, it's the fact that such complex iconography existed centuries before the classic Maya period, long assumed to be the golden age of Mayan art. Equally astounding are the San Bartolo murals discovered in a remote Guatemalan pyramid. Painted around 100 before Common Era, these vibrant frescoes tell the same creation story, but with a rawness that contrasts sharply with El Mirador's refined frieze. Here, the gods are rendered in bold, almost experimental strokes, their limbs fluid and exaggerated. One scene shows the maize god rising from a cracked turtle shell, symbolizing rebirth, a motif that would later appear in much more polished forms at Palenque and Capan. Together, these artifacts shatter the old assumption that Mayan art evolved linearly from simple to complex. Instead, they reveal a culture capable of staggering artistic achievements long before its so-called peak. The El Mirador frieze demonstrates that the Maya had mastered large-scale, detailed relief work while their civilization was still in its infancy. Meanwhile, the San Bartolo murals prove that even early Mayan painters weren't merely sketching rough drafts. They were innovating, playing with form and color in ways that feel surprisingly modern. The implications are profound. If the Maya were producing masterpieces this early, what does that say about the origins of their cosmology? Could their myths have crystallized far earlier than we thought? And why did later artists, despite their technical advances, return to the same stories told at San Bartolo and El Mirador? These works don't just challenge the timeline of Mayan art, they force us to reconsider how quickly and brilliantly human cultures can articulate their deepest beliefs. As we step back from these pre-classic wonders, another revelation awaits, one that takes us from the realm of gods and myths into the lives of Mayan royalty. Waiting in the shadows of Palenque lies a tomb steeped in crimson mystery, where a noblewoman's burial defies every expectation. Now, shifting our focus from the grand myths of creation to a more intimate yet equally enigmatic discovery, we arrive at the tomb of the Red Queen. Nestled deep within the ruins of Palenque, this burial chamber has captivated archaeologists and historians alike, not just for its royal occupant but for the striking crimson hue that envelops her remains. The story begins in 1994 when researchers uncovered a hidden sarcophagus beneath Temple 13. Inside lay the skeleton of a noblewoman, her bones and the surrounding artifacts entirely coated in bright red powder. This wasn't just any pigment, it was cinnabar, a mercury-based mineral revered by the Maya for its vivid color and symbolic ties to life, death, and divinity. The sheer quantity used here was extraordinary, suggesting this woman held immense importance. But who was she? For years, debate swirled around her identity. Some argued she was Yol Iknal, Palenque's first recorded female ruler. Others proposed she might be Sakkayuk, the mother of the famed King Pakal the Great. The strongest evidence, however, points to Tiziakbu Ajor, Pakal's wife. Jewelry found in the tomb matches descriptions of royal consorts, and her burial site adjacent to Pakal's own pyramid hints at her high status. Whoever she was, her treatment in death speaks volumes. Cinnabar wasn't merely decorative. To the Maya, it represented blood, the sacred essence of life, and its use in burials transformed tombs into portals between worlds. The Red Queen's cinnabar-covered body suggests she was seen as a conduit between the living and the divine, perhaps ensuring her lineage's continued power. Even more intriguing is how her burial compares to others. While Pakal's tomb was filled with jade, a symbol of eternal greenery, the Red Queen's crimson coating ties her to the sun's cyclical journey, red for sunrise and sunset, for beginnings and endings. This duality raises fascinating questions. Was the Red Queen's burial meant to mirror Pakal's, complementing his symbolism with her own? Or does the cinnabar hint at a unique role she played in Palenque's spiritual life? The answers remain elusive, but one thing is clear. Her tomb forces us to rethink the roles of women in Mayan royalty. Far from passive figures, women like the Red Queen may have wielded religious and political influence that rivaled their male counterparts. As we brush the dust of this crimson mystery from our hands, another artifact whispers of the Maya's earthly delights, one that proves their sophistication extended beyond gods and kings. Deep in the jungles of Guatemala, archaeologists unearthed vessels that tell a sweeter story, linking royalty to a treat we still cherish today. Leaving behind the crimson mysteries of the Red Queen, we now turn our attention to a discovery that reveals the Maya's more indulgent side: the Rio Azul pottery. Unearthed in the dense jungles of northern Guatemala, these intricately decorated vessels offer a tantalizing glimpse into the luxurious world of Mayan elites. What makes them extraordinary isn't just their craftsmanship, but the traces they hold, the earliest chemical evidence of chocolate consumption in the Mayan world. The story begins in the late 1980s, when archaeologists excavating the Rio Azul ruins stumbled upon a royal tomb. Among the treasures were vibrant ceramic vessels, their surfaces adorned with intricate glyphs and scenes of courtly life. But it was the residue inside that told the most fascinating tale. Laboratory analysis confirmed the presence of theobromine, a compound found exclusively in cacao. These weren't just storage jars, they were chocolate cups used by royalty to savor a drink so prized. It was often referred to as the food of the gods. What's remarkable is how these vessels connect to broader Mayan society. Cacao wasn't merely a delicacy, it was a symbol of wealth, power, and divine favor. The glyphs on the pots often include the word cacao, the Mayan term for chocolate, alongside titles of rulers or deities. Some even depict rituals where cacao was offered to the gods or exchanged as a royal gift. This wasn't just about taste, it was a currency of prestige woven into the fabric of politics and religion. The Rio Azul findings also shed light on the vast trade networks that sustained the Maya. Cacao beans couldn't grow just anywhere. They thrived in the lowland rainforests far from the highland cities where elites demanded their fix. This created a thriving trade system, with beans transported hundreds of miles along rivers and rugged trails. The presence of Rio Azul's chocolate vessels in elite tombs suggests the city was a key player in this network, possibly controlling critical trade routes. But why was chocolate so sacred? For the Maya, cacao was intertwined with creation myths. The Popol Vuh, their sacred text, describes gods using maize and cacao to fashion humanity. Drinking chocolate wasn't just a pleasure, it was an act of communion with the divine. Rituals often involved spiced, frothy chocolate beverages, sometimes mixed with chili or honey, served in vessels like those at Rio Azul. The foam was considered the most sacred part, symbolizing the breath of life. The legacy of these artifacts stretches beyond antiquity. Today, chocolate is a global obsession, but its roots lie in these very cups. The Rio Azul pottery doesn't just rewrite our understanding of Mayan trade and ritual, it reminds us that even the simplest pleasures can hold profound cultural power. And as we move forward, another artifact awaits, one that challenges where we thought the Maya kept their most guarded knowledge, not in grand temples but in a humble room filled with numbers and stars. Shifting our gaze from the indulgent world of chocolate rituals, we uncover something far more unexpected, a humble room in the ruins of Zoltan that rewrote our understanding of Mayan astronomy. Nestled deep in the Guatemalan jungle, this unassuming structure held a revelation, the oldest known Mayan calendar painted right onto its walls. Forget grand temples or royal libraries. Here, in a small, plaster-coated room, scribes meticulously tracked the movements of the cosmos. The discovery came in 2012 when archaeologists noticed faint red and black glyphs peeking through crumbling plaster. What they uncovered was astonishing, not just random doodles but precise astronomical tables. These charts predated the famous Dresden Codex by hundreds of years, dating back to the early 9th century. One wall detailed the cycles of Mars and Venus, while another tracked lunar phases with breathtaking accuracy. But the real shocker, this wasn't some sacred temple chamber. It was a workspace likely used by a small group of scribes or priests who crunched numbers under flickering torchlight. This challenges everything we thought we knew about where the Maya stored their most guarded knowledge. We've long assumed such advanced calculations were reserved for elite settings, palaces, temples, or at least the pages of codices like the Dresden. Yet here, in this modest room, we find evidence that complex astronomy was practiced in everyday spaces, perhaps by mid-level scholars rather than just high priests. The walls even include correction notes like a mathematician's scratchpad, suggesting this was a place of active study, not just ceremonial record-keeping. The tables also reveal how the Maya viewed time itself. Unlike our linear calendars, theirs was cyclical, with celestial events repeating in predictable patterns. The Zoltan calculations stretch over 7,000 years, far beyond any practical need. Why? Because to the Maya, time wasn't just a tool, it was a sacred force intertwined with destiny. Tracking these cycles allowed them to align rituals, agriculture, and even wars with the rhythms of the universe. What makes Zoltan truly groundbreaking is its ordinariness. Most Mayan astronomical records come from later codices or monumental carvings tailored for public display, but these walls were never meant to impress. They were working documents hidden away in a back room. That tells us advanced knowledge wasn't monopolized by the elite. It flowed through society in ways we're only beginning to grasp. As we piece together the legacy of this room, another artifact calls to us, one that dives even deeper into the Maya's spiritual world, where gods and resurrection dance across the surface of a single, mesmerizing vase. Now, let's turn our attention to a vessel that offers a window into the Maya's spiritual cosmos, the Nakam vase. Unlike the practical calculations of Zoltan, this artifact is a masterpiece of myth and metaphor, painted with scenes that plunge us straight into the underworld. Discovered in a royal tomb at the site of Nakam in Guatemala, the vase is a vivid canvas of gods, death, and rebirth, echoing stories from the Popol Vuh, the sacred Mayan text that survived Spanish conquest. The vase's imagery is a whirlwind of symbolism. On its surface, we see the maize god, a central figure in Mayan mythology, surrounded by skeletal underworld deities and aquatic monsters. The maize god's posture is striking. He's often depicted mid-resurrection, emerging from the jaws of the underworld or draped over the back of a celestial turtle, symbolizing the earth. This isn't just art, it's a coded narrative about cycles of life, death, and renewal. The maize god's journey mirrors the agricultural cycles the Maya relied on, tying spiritual beliefs directly to the rhythms of nature. What's fascinating is how closely these scenes align with the Popol Vuh, particularly the hero twins saga. In the text, the twins descend into Xibalba, the underworld, to avenge their father. the maize god, and ultimately triumph over death. The vase's imagery seems to capture moments from this epic, deities holding decapitated heads, a nod to the twins' ballgame trials, or watery realms representing the treacherous rivers of Xibalba. This isn't coincidence, it's evidence of a shared cultural script where myths were woven into everything from pottery to pyramids. The Nakam vase also reveals how the Maya viewed the afterlife. Burial objects like this weren't mere decorations, they were guides for the deceased. The vase's placement in a tomb suggests it was meant to aid the soul's journey through the underworld, much like Egyptian funerary texts. The scenes of resurrection would have offered hope, reinforcing the idea that death wasn't an end but a transition, a concept that still resonates in modern Maya communities. But here's the twist: the vase isn't just about the past, its themes endure. In Guatemala today, Maya rituals still honor the maize god and the hero twins, blending ancient beliefs with Catholicism. The Nakam vase, then, isn't just a relic. It's a bridge between eras, showing how spiritual ideas adapt yet persist. As we marvel at this vessel's storytelling power, another artifact awaits, one that takes us from the underworld to the pinnacle of political theater, where kings and gods collide on a limestone frieze. Now, stepping out of the underworld and into the grandeur of royal spectacle, we arrive at the Homel frieze, a breathtaking limestone masterpiece that redefines our understanding of Mayan kingship. Discovered in the dense jungles of Guatemala, this intricately carved panel stretches over 20 feet, revealing a scene so vivid it feels alive. A powerful ruler, draped in jade and quetzal feathers, kneeling as deities bestow upon him the symbols of divine authority. What sets the Homel frieze apart is its unapologetic celebration of political theater. Here, the king isn't just a mortal leader, he's a conduit between the earthly and the divine. The gods flanking him aren't passive observers, they actively place a sacred headdress upon him, a moment frozen in stone that screams, "This ruler is chosen." This wasn't merely art, it was propaganda, a public declaration that the king's right to rule came straight from the cosmos. The frieze symbolism is razor-sharp. The headdress, adorned with the jester god motif, a symbol of royalty, anchors the king's legitimacy. Serpents coil around the scene, their gaping mouths spitting forth ancestral spirits, linking the ruler to a lineage of revered predecessors. Even the positioning matters. The frieze was placed high on the temple's exterior, ensuring every subject below would look up literally and metaphorically to their god-king. But there's a twist. Scholars argue this imagery wasn't just about awe, it was a calculated response to crisis. Homel sat near Tikal and Calakmul, two superpowers locked in a centuries-long rivalry. By portraying his coronation as divinely ordained, the king may have been staking his claim in a turbulent political landscape. The frieze timing aligns with Tikal's temporary decline, suggesting Homel seized the moment to assert itself. What's equally fascinating are the smaller details: glyphs naming the king's parents, rituals involving incense and bloodletting. These weren't frivolous additions, they reinforced the ruler's sacred duties. The Maya believed kings bled to sustain the cosmos, and the frieze broadcasts this contract between ruler and gods. Yet the Homel frieze isn't just a relic of power plays. Its preservation is a miracle. Most stucco reliefs crumble in the humid jungle, that we can still trace the fingerprints of the artisans who pressed pigments into the carving makes it hauntingly human. As we unravel the frieze layers, remember, this wasn't just history recorded, it was history staged, a reminder that for the Maya, politics and religion were threads of the same fabric. And waiting beneath the surface, more secrets, as recent excavations near Homel hint at untold stories still buried. Now, let's peer beyond the grand spectacle of the Homel frieze and uncover the hidden language carved into its stone glyphs that whisper secrets of solar cycles and the veneration of ancestors. While the central scene of divine kingship captivates, it's the smaller, often overlooked symbols that reveal the Maya's profound connection to time and lineage. Tucked between the folds of the ruler's jade regalia and the serpent's coils are glyphs referencing the sun's journey. One depicts a solar deity with Kinish, the sun god's name, embedded within a cartouche. This isn't just decoration. The Maya meticulously tracked solar movements, and this glyph aligns with dates marking equinoxes, moments when the king's rituals would mirror the sun's balance between light and dark. Imagine the scene. As sunlight struck the frieze at dawn on these sacred days, the glyphs would seem to ignite, reinforcing the king's role as a celestial intermediary. Equally compelling are the glyphs invoking ancestors. Near the base of the frieze, a sequence shows stylized faces with inverted heads, a Mayan motif for the underworld. These aren't generic spirits, they're named individuals, likely the king's forebears, their titles woven into the narrative. One glyph pairs a serpent with the word Siechab, meaning penance, hinting at bloodletting rites to commune with these ancestors. For the Maya, the dead weren't distant memories but active participants in governance. By etching them here, the king didn't just honor his lineage, he broadcasted that his rule was backed by centuries of wisdom. But the real intrigue lies in a barely visible glyph cluster near the frieze edge. Faded but decipherable, it references a Star War event, a term Mayanists use for battles timed to celestial phenomena. This suggests the king may have launched a military campaign coinciding with a planetary alignment, framing conquest as cosmically sanctioned. It's a stark reminder that for the Maya, warfare and astronomy were threads of the same sacred tapestry. What makes these symbols extraordinary is their duality. They served both spiritual and political ends. The solar glyphs legitimized the king as a timekeeper, while the ancestral ties silenced dissent by rooting his power in tradition. Yet there's humility here too. One faint glyph shows a hand molding stucco, a rare nod to the artisans whose labor turned theology into tangible art. These hidden details transform the frieze from a static monument into a living text. They show us a world where kings didn't just rule people, they negotiated with the sun and consulted the dead. And as excavations continue, who knows what other coded messages await in the limestone's embrace. While the Homel frieze itself is a masterpiece of Mayan storytelling, the ground beneath it holds secrets just as astonishing. Recent excavations around the frieze have uncovered a series of untouched tombs and structures that could reshape our understanding of this ancient city's power and influence. Archaeologists armed with cutting-edge technology have peeled back layers of jungle and time to reveal treasures that even the most seasoned experts didn't expect. One of the most startling finds is an unopened royal tomb hidden just meters from the frieze. Preliminary scans suggest it contains a high-ranking individual, possibly a ruler or high priest, buried with an array of jade ornaments and inscribed pottery. What makes this discovery extraordinary isn't just the potential wealth inside, it's the tomb's alignment. Unlike typical Mayan burials, this chamber is oriented toward a rarely documented star cluster, hinting at a previously unknown celestial connection in Homel's rituals. If the inscriptions inside match the frieze glyphs, we might uncover direct links between the king depicted above ground and the ancestor venerated below. Nearby, researchers have also uncovered a network of ceremonial chambers littered with shattered incense burners and obsidian blades. These aren't random fragments. The burners bear markings tied to specific dates in the Mayan calendar, suggesting timed rituals that synchronized with events like solar eclipses or Venus cycles. Even more intriguing, some blades show traces of a blue pigment reserved for sacrifices to the rain god Chok. This paints a vivid picture. Imagine priests conducting bloodletting ceremonies in these very chambers, their offerings timed to celestial events while the echoes of chants filled the air. But perhaps the biggest game changer is a set of recently unearthed foundation stones beneath the frieze plaza. Carved with early Mayan script, these stones predate the frieze by centuries, yet they mention Homel as a thriving hub long before historians believed it rose to prominence. This discovery could push back the city's timeline, proving it was a major player during the pre-classic era, a time when Mayan civilization was supposedly in its infancy. What does all this mean? Every shovel of dirt turned at Homel chips away at old assumptions. The unopened tombs could reveal new dynasties. The ceremonial chambers rewrite the playbook on Mayan spirituality. And those ancient foundation stones, they might force us to redraw the entire map of early Mayan power structures. As the excavations continue, one thing is certain: Homel isn't just a relic of the past. It's a living puzzle, daring us to rethink history one discovery at a time. As we wrap up this journey through the 25 Mayan artifacts that could rewrite history, let's take a moment to reflect on just how profound these discoveries are. From the astronomical precision of the Dresden Codex to the celestial symbolism of the Homel frieze, each artifact has peeled back another layer of the Mayan world, revealing a civilization far more advanced, interconnected, and enigmatic than we once imagined. These aren't just relics, they're keys to unlocking a history that challenges everything we thought we knew. Think about it: the Mayans mapped the stars with astonishing accuracy, encoded their beliefs in jade and stone, and built cities that aligned with cosmic events. Their artifacts tell stories of kings and queens, gods and rituals, wars and alliances, stories that were nearly lost to time. Yet here we are, piecing together fragments of their world, one artifact at a time. And with every new discovery, the puzzle only grows more fascinating. So here's the burning question: how much of Mayan history is still buried beneath the jungle, waiting to be uncovered? Just imagine what else might lie hidden: untouched tombs, lost codices, or even entire cities swallowed by the earth. The more we dig, the more we realize how little we truly know. And that's the thrill of it all. The Maya left behind clues, and it's up to us to follow them. If you're as captivated by these mysteries as we are, let us know in the comments which artifact surprised you the most. What piece of Mayan history do you think is still out there waiting to be found? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more deep dives into ancient mysteries, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. The past is full of secrets, and together we'll keep uncovering them. Until next time, keep exploring.